Hi, I'm Jeff Boyer of Jeff Boyer Uncorked, coming to you today from the Junction area of the Warehouse District in Woodinville Wine Country, courtesy of the Soulstone Winery Tasting Room. Today we're going to taste through a couple of wines that Rotary has selected for this Oktoberfest presentation, so let's just get right to it. I've got two different wines that you may have picked up already from Martetti Winery, the Tuesday Cellars Chardonnay. We're going to taste that first. There's some action. Now, for those of you that don't do much wine tasting, you don't want to just sip right away. You really want to look at the wine, ideally behind a white background, because that tells you the clarity. You want to smell it after you swirl it, because that releases the aromas, and then you taste it. So this first wine is Chardonnay, the 2018 vintage. It is unoaked Chardonnay, but it has some malolactic fermentation, which a lot of you won't be familiar with, but that's what gives Chardonnay a rich mouthfeel and a full-bodied white wine. Dry in the finish, no residual sugar. So if you're at home tasting this, take another swig. I recommend several, because the second taste of a wine is always better than the first taste. Now, we're also going to taste the Tuesday Cellars Merlot. So we're switching to a red. This is a dry red. I'm going to grab another glass. Walk out of the camera. Sorry about that. So this is a 2017 Tuesday Cellars Merlot. Merlot is a great alternative for people that don't like Cabernet Sauvignon because it's a little less tannic, a little more fruit to it. Again, you want to take a look at the color, catch the aromas, and then taste it. Swish it around your mouth. I used to make the mistake of always overanalyzing wine. It's just wine. So swish it around your mouth, enjoy all portions of the flavors as it hits your mouth. Merlot is a fairly round, dry style wine, but not as tannic as Cabernet Sauvignon. So it pairs with a lot of different food types, and it's also really great all by itself. What do you think? Again, one of the things that I mentioned of taking that second sip, when you switch from a white wine to a red wine or different white wines, that first sip of the second wine, your palate is still thinking about the wine that was just in your mouth. So I always recommend that first sip is just to kind of tell your mouth that things are changing, and then you can analyze it. So what do you think? You like them? You don't like them? Wine is all about a personal thing. So let's talk a little bit about pairings and what you would pair Chardonnay with. As I mentioned, Chardonnay is a full-bodied, dry white wine, so it stands up to rich, creamy sauces, obviously salmon and rich seafood items, and medium to hard cheeses. Comparatively, wines like Riesling, some Pinot Gris, they can be have some residual sugar in them, and so those are totally different food groups that you want to pair with those. But Chardonnay is just a really good food wine. Pretty much you can't go wrong. Even barbecued pork. All right, let's talk about Merlot, shall we? So the Merlot, as I mentioned, round, full-bodied red wine, classic with marinated flank steak on the barbecue, any kind of a hearty beef stew, roast, and again, it pairs really well with sharp cheeses, like a sharp cheddar, smoked Gouda. Enjoy. I'd like to point out that all of the wines, or the 2 wines that we tasted tonight, are also available at Arista Wine Cellars in Edmonds, our local wine shop. So please go in, see Roger, and he will take care of you. I mentioned a little bit about Tuesday Cellars being from Martetti Winery in Woodinville. Many of you may not know that most wineries have their primary label and then also have a secondary label or value label that is primarily reserved for restaurants. Because of the COVID-19 situation and the restaurant business is terrible, now wineries like Martetti have released their second label wines to the public. So they provide a terrific value price point and still really quality wines. So let's chat a little bit about small production Washington wines. By definition, small production Washington wines are 1,000 to 5,000 cases. Now there's over 1,000 wineries, individual wineries in Washington State. Out of those 1,000 wineries, about 10 of them produce 95% of all of the bottles in Washington State. Put that in perspective, the top 10 producers create 25 million gallons of wine per year. The remaining 950 wineries, less than 5% of the total. So approximately 300,000 cases. So 300,000 cases versus 5,000 cases. Another misconception that most people have is that they think wineries grow their own grapes. The opposite is true. Most wineries buy their grapes. If a winery has their own vineyards, it's called estate-grown wines, but most wineries buy their grapes. In Washington State, out of those 1,000 wineries, there are only about 250 vineyards. So the vineyards are divided up in the state in what are called AVAs, or American Viticultural Areas. This is significant because AVAs are distinct soil types, rainfall, climate conditions, and so different grape varietals do better in some geographic areas than in others. So here is an example of the AVA map within Washington State. Common AVAs, or AVAs that you may be familiar with: Red Mountain, Walla Walla Valley, Snipes Mountain, Columbia Valley, Yakima Valley. So those are all unique growing areas. Sourcing quality grapes is the key to making quality wines. I've had several winemakers tell me you can't make good wine from shitty grapes, but you can make shitty wine from good grapes. So you can screw it up in the winemaking process, but there's nothing you can do to make up for lousy fruit. Let me chat just a little bit about some of the Washington wineries that I am passionate about. Let's start off with Soulstone. Karen and Buzz Buckingham have graciously let us use their tasting room. They make their 2019 Chardonnay, just won a double gold medal Seattle Wine Awards. Seattle Wine Awards is a big deal. Double gold medal. My personal favorite white wine is Viognier. Their Soul Sister Viognier is absolutely the best in the state. It's rich, it's creamy. I could go on, but it's a fantastic Viognier. And then there's Syrah. I can't say enough about this Syrah. Again, small production, 35 cases produced, so tiny production. A separate AVA in the state, which we talked about, is Natchez Heights Vineyards, NHV. This is outside of Yakima. They farm organically and biodynamically, and their vineyard They are estate-grown wines because they grow the grapes and make the wine. Certified salmon safe and live certified, also certified organic. This is their Pinot Gris and their Syrah. Fantastic. Bartholomew Winery. I've represented Bart Fawbush's wines for years. He's an awesome guy, makes great wines, sources from some of the state's best vineyards. And the Soldier On is a blend that he donates the proceeds to the Wounded Warrior Project. It's a blend of Malbec, Tannat, and Petit Verdot. Carmenere is his signature wine, sells out every year, makes about 75 cases. So when we're talking about small production, these are wines that they come out, you're not going to see them in grocery stores, but when you have a chance to look out further, I encourage you to look at brands that you've never heard of. I also love to do personal tastings or event type thing. That's how I got involved with Rotary in the first place. So if you ever want to host a wine tasting for your business or at home, jeffboyeruncorked.com, that's what I love to do. I want to introduce you to Karen and Buzz Buckingham, owners and winemakers for Soulstone Winery. Good friends of mine. We started off 4 or 5 years ago with Jeff Boyer Uncorked representing their wines, and the rest is history. So thank you guys for letting us do this shoot in your tasting room in Woodinville. Hopefully people will be able to come out to the junction and taste through the rest of their wines. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.